Bachelorette contestants put out apologies to Gabby. Rachel Lindsay defends keeping her relationship private. And Tyler Cameron's not so coy about his fallout with Matt James. Hey guys, and welcome back to another shared news. We are here to break down the biggest Bachelorette Nation headlines of the week. And before we get into it, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. And if you're new here, do not forget to subscribe to our channel. As always, I'm your host, Zachary Reality, joined by Blakely McHugh. Blakely, happy Friday. How are you doing today?
I'm great. It's a beautiful Friday. I am ready to get to the weekend. We've done a few panels today. I feel like they've gone swimmingly, so I'm in a great mood.
Okay, great. Me as well. Well, we got to talk about some of this Bachelor drama because Jacob and Hayden actually put out apologies to Gabby on Instagram. Well, Hayden's, we'll put that in quotation marks. Now, this week on The Bachelorette, we saw Jacob and Hayden reject Gabby because they were more interested in Rachel, but in rejecting her, they actually offended her while doing it. Jacob straight up told Gabby he would have left the show if it was just her and not Rachel. He ended up getting eliminated anyway, and now he's off the show, so he was able to go to Instagram to apologize. Jacob says, "I wanted to take this moment to apologize to Gabby for not taking her feelings into consideration. What I said was ignorant and not appropriate in the moment. I realize you don't know what someone could be going through or where their headspace is at. Listening instead of explaining would have gone further. I have no excuses. I can only learn from this moment to understand everyone deserves to be respected. I wish Gabby all the best in her pursuit of love. I know she'll find it." Okay, Blakely, I mean, you definitely had opinions on Jacob's attitude this week towards Gabby. What do you think of this apology?
You know what?
Is he forgiven?
He redeemed himself for me. Yes. I forgive him.
He did.
I cringed so hard. I hated every moment of him saying I wouldn't stay, even if you were the only person, because who the heck wants to hear that, even if it's the truth? It seems like his apology was very thought out and genuine. And it seems like he was like, wow, those were really a poor choice of words. And Tarzan is redeemed in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, everybody says stupid things sometimes, you know, and it's not always caught on camera for the world to see. So as long as he's taking accountability and responsibility, which he is, he's saying he's learning from it. There was one typo in his Instagram apology. He meant to say from, but he said form. I don't know if anyone called him out for that, but I definitely liked that he said at the end, "I wish Gabby all the best in her pursuit of love. I know she'll find it." That was my favorite part of the apology. So Jacob, you're forgiven. Maybe we'll see you on Paradise. Now, Hayden also offended Gabby this week when he rejected her, saying that she was rough around the edges. But he did form a deeper connection with Rachel, and Rachel decided to give Hayden a rose. She sent Jacob home, but she gave Hayden a rose. Now, Hayden is still on the show, so I don't know if that is the reason why he can't give out a official apology, because we're going to see it next week. But this is what Hayden said on Instagram. He says, "What a night. Looking back, I can definitely say I may not be the most eloquent with my words at times, but I aimed my heart in the direction of my intentions. Extremely glad Rachel saw me for who I am on the inside and allowed me to continue the journey with her." What are your thoughts on this with Hayden, and how do you think it's going to play out next week?
I mean, Hayden he's probably not gonna last. I think that he got a rose because she needed 9 people or however many people, and she had a little bit of a connection compared to everybody else, and that's the only reason why Hayden stayed. If she had the exact same connection as she did with Hayden, but it was somebody else, she would have sent Hayden home specifically because of what he said to Gabby. There is no accountability in his apology. It's, I had the best intentions. Well, it doesn't matter if you had the best intentions. You did wrong, and you need to apologize when you do wrong. And I think that he can certainly put much more of a statement out there, because he doesn't need to talk about anything that goes on in the show after this. All he has to say was like, I should never have used rough around the edges to describe somebody. That was a serious poor choice of words. Gabby is a beautiful human, whatever. And could have left it at that, and that would have been perfect. But he's like, "Oh, I'm so thankful that Rachel saw me for who I am." I'm like, well, who you are is calling a woman rough around the edges and not apologizing for it. So I don't know that she's seeing much in you, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do have a connection, though. I think they're both from Florida. I think he is kind of cute. I think they were vibing for a minute. So I do understand maybe she wanted to keep him. another week and give him the opportunity to explain himself after the rose ceremony when they have time. I don't think his Instagram statement is it. But honestly, like, I do think that he's probably not allowed to apologize on Instagram, because I think that he's going to apologize on the show next week. So yeah, so I just don't think that the PR department would let him say too much on Instagram. I honestly think they maybe even helped type this out for him. But then when he said like intentions and eloquent with my words, I'm like, I don't know. We'll see what he says next week and we'll recuperate. But let's talk about Rachel Lindsay, because she is defending her private relationship with Brian Abasolo. So we saw former Bachelorette Rachel Lindsay get engaged on her season to Brian, and since the show, they have gotten married. They're in love. They've moved in together. Now, Rachel has pursued a career in entertainment journalism, and Brian has opened up a practice since he's a chiropractor. They're living in Los Angeles, and even though they are public figures, Rachel is explaining on her blog, Honestly Rach, why she decides to keep their relationship private and not post about him, not share him. It also seems like Rachel is always going out without him. So, I mean, it makes fans wonder, like, are they together? Are they spending time together? So here's what Rachel had to say. She said, Brian is none of your business. I am joking. I am half joking. In reality TV, that is designed for your relationship to fail. We survived and came out on top. Our contractual public love story ended on August 7th, 2017. And at that point, we decided we wanted to control the future of our relationship. We decided to pull away from the public eye to build a strong foundation, and we did that. She said she doesn't want to perform on social media and wants to stay true to them, and that's why they keep things private. But don't worry, they are all good. So what are your thoughts on this? I mean, we obviously have to respect Rachel and Brian for keeping their relationship private. But it always makes me wonder, like, does he just not go out with you? Like, do you live, because it kind of makes it seem like on social media, they live different lives almost, because, you know, she's always on the carpet. She's always working. She's in entertainment, and she just doesn't seem to be bringing Brian around. And if she says that they're hanging out all the time and that they're good off camera, like, of course, you know, we know she knows her life way more than what we see on social media.
For sure. Yeah, I don't know. Their relationship to me has always been a bit of an enigma. I never fully understood it, and truthfully, I was surprised that they were successful. Happy for them, but I wasn't. I didn't see the strong connection, especially after, you know, she was so distraught when the other guy, her other runner-up, wanted to leave, and she, you know, I just thought, thank you, Peter. I just thought, how do you have a solid relationship when that other person sees you, you know, so distraught that this, you know, your runner-up left. So anyways, I've always been a little bit confused by their relationship, but it does definitely seem like they live different lives. But I mean, clearly it's working, because how many Bachelor couples have stayed together? Like, what, 1%, and they're part of that? So maybe that's the trick. And by the way, you know, we see this with celebrities often too. Who was it that it was Dolly Parton, right? That she just revealed or brought her husband to like the very first red carpet or something like that, where people have never even seen him before, and they've been married for like decades. So I think that there's a secret in that sauce to keeping your relationship private, and if that's what they got to do to make it work, then that's what they got to do.
Yeah, I mean, you can't not respect this. You know, she says they're all good. Yeah. I mean, they're married. They live together. You know, I know they were doing long distance marriage for about a year because Brian was moving his practice in chiropractic to Los Angeles. You know, Rachel's really passionate about her career. Brian's really passionate about her career. So I know that's kind of maybe one of the reasons why they've taken a little bit longer to have children, because they have been married a few years. You know, their season ended, as she said, 2017. We're in 2022 now. So it's been over 5 years now. But I've met them before. They're both really genuine, kind people, really hardworking. They said that they are definitely going to have kids soon. So I think they're fine. I think they're all good. And I respect them. You know, I don't think that it's like a Snooki and Gianni situation, because I'm trying to think of them from Jersey Shore, where Gianni wants nothing to do with the cameras. Like, I'm honestly like, I want Snooki to explain. I need Snooki to make this article that Rachel just did and address it, because I don't understand their relationship. But I like that Rachel is letting us know that they're all good, and they're all good. I trust her. Do you feel ever that like relationships have to post on social media, especially when you're Bachelor couples? Because like they said, they're not contractually obligated to keep us informed anymore.
I think that there's certainly a big pressure. Obviously, so much of Bachelor Nation has become like this influencer world. Everybody, so many people when they get off of the show, they become an influencer. They're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're doing brand deals, they're doing this, that, and the other thing. I think that there's a pressure to keep up with everybody else who's doing that when they come out of the same situation as you and to be successful. And I'm sure, like, if somebody comes out of that show and they're a lead or they're a somebody and they don't capitalize on that and they end up just like back into their regular life. I don't know. I could see that maybe feeling a little, I can't think of the word right now. Disappointing. Like disappointing if you don't, you don't make it, but other people are. So I think that there is this pressure within Bachelor Nation to capitalize on this success and build on it. And then also people are so invested in your relationship. They want to see those photos. They're asking questions. But I think with, obviously putting things out in the public means you're now subjecting to yourself and your relationship to scrutiny and to questions and to the marriage and when is it happening and when are these babies happening? When are you moving together? All this stuff that can be very overwhelming and damaging to a relationship. So I think that there's certainly a pressure, not just in life, there's a pressure to create this fantasy of your life and to show people that you're in love and you're happy and you're this and you're that, and then add on, publicity and whatnot. So I think that it has to be a little bit difficult to be in that environment, to have all of those outside influences in that way.
Yeah, and Rachel and Brian aren't trying to be like influencers. As I mentioned, he's a doctor and she is, a journalist. They're both really working hard. So I respect them and I'm glad that they're happy and I cannot wait for the baby announcement whenever that's going to be, hopefully by the end of this year, maybe next year, who knows. But we got to talk about one more topic today. Tyler Cameron, he cannot seem to stop talking about Matt James in the press. I mean, I originally thought he was just going to address this once, but now there's so many outlets. There's multiple different statements. Tyler Cameron is kind of making it seem like, he might have some beef with Rachel Kirkconnell. So we know Tyler and Matt James were best friends, roommates. They did everything together. Some would argue, like myself, that Matt would have never been the Bachelor if it wasn't for Tyler. And fans have noticed that their friendship drifted and they don't hang out anymore. And it might have something to do with Rachel. So Tyler said, I think people think Matt and I aren't friends because we are not in each other's everyday lives like we used to be. I think it's part of growing up and entering a relationship. We all have those friends that grow up, start dating their person, get married, and you see them when you see them. So, Blakely, this kind of struck a chord with me because we do all have those friends. But Matt James wasn't one of your friends. Yes. He was your best friend, your roommate, your friend from college. They've been friends for a decade. Matt wrote about in his book, which I read, that Tyler's mom was such a big part of his life and convinced him to do The Bachelor, and then how they must have bonded through doing the show in New York and everything they've been doing together. Like, I'm just confused why he says you see them when you see them.
I mean, truthfully, that doesn't strike any kind of chord with me. I have a best friend that I have been friends with since 4th grade. And when I went off to college, she didn't go to the same college. We lived separate lives for 4 years, frankly. We communicated once in a while, but we really lived separate lives. I think that happens when you get overwhelmed. There was so much that Matt James was doing once he got off of being the Bachelor. Tyler Cameron has so many opportunities. It takes you in so many different directions and makes it a lot more difficult to keep those relationships as strong as they used to be. And then especially when you get into a relationship, the dynamic shifts again. So that part truly wasn't alarming to me. And I think earlier when you said, he just can't stop talking to them, Tyler is not divulging enough information. So people are confused and people want specifics and they want to understand like really what's going on. So he's now getting asked a similar question probably over and over and over again because it's not actually making much sense.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's possible. Like Matt moved to Miami. He is in a new relationship. Tyler lives in Florida sometimes, in New York. I don't know. You just would think that they would be able to hang out once. And Matt hasn't said anything about this or Rachel publicly. Tyler's has said things about this a few times, but I guess he's more in the media, in the press. and might be promoting projects. So that's why he's doing interviews. I know he just started a podcast. But a lot of fans are questioning if this does have something to do with Rachel, because Rachel did once describe the relationship with Tyler as love-hate, and then Tyler joked about saying there's love there, LOL, in an interview with E! News. Now, Tyler says, we have our own ways of clashing. I don't like listening to people, and she's strong, meaning Rachel, and she has a really good opinion on a lot of things, and sometimes I don't want to hear it. I don't know what that means. It feels really vague. I don't know. Have you seen a lot of these interviews or statements? Like, what do you really think it's possible that maybe because Tyler and Rachel might not get along, that Matt had to pick a lane and pick a side? Is that possible?
100%. I don't know that there was probably a conversation that said you need to choose, right? But naturally, that's kind of what happens. You go in a direction. And again, Tyler is being so vague. He's alluding to something without giving us any backstory. Like, nobody just says, we don't agree on everything, or we have strong personalities, or, they're clearly, he's trying to dilute whatever actually went on. And so now we are all wanting to know what the heck happened. So I think that Matt and Tyler's dissolving of their relationship a little bit is more based off of whatever this Rachel situation is versus the, we're in two different places of our lives, because that happens naturally, sure. But you then don't add in the latter, and it's supposed to just be, normal. So there's something that's happening. But again, you can't allude to something. It's you know what it's like? It's like Crystal in Real Housewives of Beverly Hills saying, she said something dark. Well, now you're just leaving everything up for interpretation. What was dark? What was the disagreement? Just tell us. Give it to us straight.
Yeah. Or don't say anything at all. I think that's where Tyler put his foot in his mouth, and now we're all speculating that him and Rachel don't like each other, and that's the reason why him and Matt are friends. Because for me, are not friends anymore, or maybe they're just not as close as Tyler said. It seems like he still has love for Matt. Like, absolutely. How could he not? But it definitely seems like there
100%.
is something that happened with Rachel and maybe with Matt that he's just not addressing. And I think he just honestly didn't take his media training class that week, because now we're all speculated and thinking about all these things. And I wonder if Matt will say anything about it, or maybe they'll post together in the next couple of months and just be like, hey, we're all good.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I don't know. I don't see Matt and Rachel. I don't feel like they do a lot of addressing. I don't feel like they do a lot of interviews.
They don't.
They kind of are a little bit more. Yeah. So I don't see them. They're just going to keep doing their thing. And then one day we're going to see Tyler and Matt pop back up together and think that that's how it's going to go.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. We're definitely rooting for the friendship. I loved their bromance. I miss seeing their videos together online. So let us know what you guys think about these Bachelor headlines in the comment sections down below. Thank you all so much for listening. We hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. And don't forget to ring the bell and subscribe to our channel if you have not already, so you're always up to date with all things Bachelor Nation. As always, I'm your host, Zachary Reality, joined with Blakely McHugh. Our social media handles are on the screen right now, so be sure to give us a follow. Come say hello. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye.